right in front. That way no one can sleep.
Then you can duck out.
I saw the article in the West End Word, I think it was, I thought it was,
That was one of the best.
yeah,
Error-free, nice pictures.
very exciting.
Yeah, it was thrilling. Front page, that was great. I wasn't thrilled with the picture they had of me on the cover, but yeah, can't win them all.
Always the way it is.
Yeah. Hey, Bill. How you guys doing?
Well, there are actually some owls in Maplewood.
Yes. Yes.
I heard them again the other night. We live over on Circle, which is just about 3 blocks from here. And I'm sitting there going, okay, that sounds really cool.
Nice.
But I haven't been able to find them.
Now, are you the
Talk to her.
Yes, yes. Near the Metrolink station, there's
Yes.
a park. Hey, Lee, come in.
They're right behind Jenny and Jeremy's house. That's where they are.
Okay, they sounded pretty close.
Yeah, and
So,
Yeah.
You want to see the picture?
And
Yes.
a friend and former colleague of mine who lives here used to see some.
that's very.
well, my daughter and son
I've
are
seen plenty of
That's
pictures.
a
Like I
great
need to
one.
show.
Oh, no, that's never hurts to see more. Wow.
right near the Metrolink station.
That's so
There's a
cool.
little street called Circle. If you blink, you
Sorry.
miss it. And it's down around, there's like
And video.
where the dog park is. So,
Is it Great Horn now? Yes, I heard one. Of the
I think
things
that's
that
what he's-
all your.
I think that's what he just said,
To show her.
was it was a great horn
She
dog.
actually showed us where they were going.
Linda,
Like, I thought they had a system.
Do you know what kind it is, Coach?
It might
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
She made a video. I have the
But she's gonna be
children
in February, right?
So, Deepa, oh, my name's
Dawn.
Dawn.
Awesome.
I should remember that one.
I remembered, yeah.
Well, do you know where to come?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's not,
Okay, it's not even 7 o'clock yet.
The more the merrier. Yes, ma'am.
How did you know they were going to be?
Yes.
And I said, oh, I'm so sad because I haven't heard any owls in Maplewood. So it's exciting to hear this, but
Good, good.
about 3 weeks ago, I woke up at about 2:15 in the morning. And I just woke up and I thought, I wonder what woke me up.
Sure, sure.
And 2 or 3 minutes later, I heard an owl and it was, I have a little story and a half.
Wow.
It was on my roof.
Oh,
And I knew it was right
nice.
above me, and I was like, you can't run outside.
Wow.
Because it'll go away. And
Did it
hooted
sound
up.
like Charles or Sarah?
Well,
I mean, like that general tonality, like a great horn
yeah,
owl?
but well, I don't know if it was a great horn because
Okay.
it didn't. When you hear Charles, he's, so full.
Yeah.
But it hooted about 4 times, and then it must have flown off. And I thought, I was so excited just to hear another. I was so far.
That is huge. No, I'm very lucky to live near Forest Park, and my girlfriend Wendy and I have a home in Dogtown. We have a beautiful pin oak in our side yard, and Wendy will often say wistfully, I completely agree with her. She'll say, I wish the owls could just come over.
Yes.
We've got a nice tree. They could just come out and hang. We could do all sorts of things. Well, see, this is one of the things, and I'll talk about this in my talk, though, just one of the best ways to find out about wildlife near where you live, just talk to people, and ask a few key questions, basically what, where, and when, because then you can really start to hone that down. That networking, I don't want to sound overly career-oriented, but that sort of networking is very important. And then, you just meet people and relationships blossom and all sorts of cool stuff happens.
The woman in the front, have you by any chance, you've just seen one?
No, we've seen 2.
2, and are they nesting? Or have you seen these?
I'm gonna try to get him to come out and help us see if we can find the nest.
Yeah, will you make a house call?
Oh, I do. Doctors don't. I do.
We've done that.
I've consulted.
Okay.
My fees are
We didn't
modest.
find it.
No, I've done it both successfully and unsuccessfully.
Okay.
I did send them and I hope that proved helpful, a list of what to look for, listen for, all sorts of things. I mean, it's not a roadmap, but it's kind of a game of warmer, colder. Okay, you're closer to where you were before.
If anyone wants to get, like, go on an owl prowl, Maplewood or something, like, we're probably gonna have to leave early because they're gonna get antsy, but, I don't know, we can try to coordinate.
Contact Mark, please, everyone grab a business card on the way out or the way in, unless you already have my email and can't get rid of it. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So the Metro Lake Station, or Maplewood, yeah, the Maplewood Metro Lake Station, we've seen them at like 8 o'clock, 9 p.m. We saw them at 5:30 one night.
That's
That
so
was really
cool.
rare. They're usually like 8 or 9 p.m. or later.
That's,
And so maybe we'll be there when I go get on one.
what time of year has that been?
January, like, no, December, no, late November, we started hearing them, you know,
Mhm.
until all through December now.
And I just heard them the other night, like
Wow.
2 nights ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and especially, you
Yeah,
know,
just down
as it gets
Manchester.
to be out, we wake up at like 1 or 2 a.m., definitely come down there. Good, how are you? I'm sure they're down there every night. Yeah.
No, those are available. There's a few more back there.
All right.
Let me see if I can go find some, actually, I'll go ahead and introduce you, I'll try to find some more chairs.
Sure. We got a couple more minutes.
Let's see what I can do.
Yeah. All right. We are getting more chairs. Oh, thank you. This is great. This is awesome. Lots of fun.
I released an owl first part of the
Nice. I was just telling the group where I got to do that too. Sweet. Same. Me too. Likewise. Oh man, what kind?
Yeah, but what?
What species?
It was a great horned owl.
Nice. Me too.
So it was like a bigger,
Mine was male.
and it had been skunked. So it
Wow.
kind of smelled like skunk.
Yeah.
And they put like a, so they put like an apron.
Apron on you. Nice. That's good.
Mine was
Good.
fine.
Good.
It was just so sad.
How big was it?
I thought it was big, but I mean, they said it was bigger than the male that the other guy released.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about
It wasn't as
differences
much
in
as I thought
size.
it would be.
And we'll definitely, we will talk about that. It's deceptive because you're like, oh my god, there's this huge thing. Yeah.
But they said that it flew after they watched it up in the trees, it flew over the highway. So I'm like, well, it's not in the park anymore.
No, mine stayed near.
Okay.
One of my friends and mentees who's here may have been at that release.
Did they videotape the race?
They did, and I keep meaning to go back and contact them and get that footage.
They sent me a video.
They sent you the video?
I gave her my email like a day. Because I decided to
I
release.
hoped I did. I mean, I don't shower without my business card. Enough about my own. Yes, Claire?
Did you see this one, Missouri Conservation? Isn't it fabulous?
You recognize the owl, yeah. I ran into the photographer and writer of that piece a few weeks ago. I met him last year. In the new issue of Missouri Conservationist, it's the February issue, there's a cover story is on short-eared owls. And very smartly, the guy who wrote it and took the photos, not Powthall, had pictures of other owls, just so you can discriminate short-eared owl versus long-eared owl versus great horn versus barn. And I ran into him a few weeks ago and he said, there's going to be a picture of the female Sarah in next month's issue. Now, it's not, attributed, this is Sarah in Forest Park, blah, 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 but
She looks
yeah,
familiar.
she looks familiar. Oh yeah, beautiful picture. What I need to do is ask him when he took that, so I can try and figure out which owlet was in the picture.
2 years ago.
I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is like so exciting. So, when I first talked to Mark, and actually, the lady who I talked to and recommended that I have you is sitting right there in the
Lovely, thank you.
So, I've had a great time working with Mark, and he's made it so exciting, and like I want to go out and look for owls now. So I would probably never have heard the owls until talking to him. So he just makes owls just so exciting, and just so I think you're in for a real treat. Thank you all for coming. Do you mind if I ask? Did you guys find out about this on his blog site or in the paper or both? Okay. All right.
Website.
Great. Good. Okay. Yeah, we always like to see, you know, what's working. So.
No.
So, his love for owls is just very contagious. So just really enjoy. And if you do need the restrooms, you have to get a key at the desk. They're down there. The women's is on the right, men's is on the left, and there's a water fountain back in the back. So, and even though it's cold outside, it's obviously going to be very nice and warm in here. So, so enjoy, and thanks again, Mark.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maplewood Public Library, for having me here. I'm always thrilled to talk to anyone, be it someone passing by in the park, someone at work, just someone that comes up about the park. But I'm really grateful that you guys came out tonight. It's a weeknight. It's tough. We all have busy lives, no matter what we're doing, what our responsibilities are. So thank you for coming out. I'm very glad that someone recommended me to Dawn. I always hope that one talk or one discussion or one encounter leads to another, and this is definitely fruit of that. And if you like what you hear, I certainly hope you do. Hope no old fruit or vegetables were brought this evening. Certainly, please take my card, pass my name on to whoever might you think would be interested. So, Forest Park owls hiding in plain sight. And that really sums it all up. There are owls in Forest Park. They're there. Hard to find. People often ask me, well, how did you get started with all this? I mean, you just don't say, you know, I've got a lot to do this weekend. I've got laundry, I'm going to clean the bathrooms, and oh yes, I'm going to go find some owls, and it's going to completely change my life. You don't plan like that. So to answer the question in the big ultimate sense, I've been interested, as long as I can remember, probably a little older than these guys, in wildlife, in animals of all sorts. And thankfully my parents and family encouraged that. And we obviously have parents here, probably grandparents and aunts and uncles. And if you don't already, certainly encourage an interest in nature and wildlife in your kids, in your nephews, and your nieces, your grandkids. I found that if people get it early, it stays with them. And I have unfortunately seen people who are, oh, you're 25, you never got it. Damn, you may not ever get that sort of interest in nature and wildlife. So, end of sermon there. So that's the sort of big answer. The sort of second answer of more locally owls and owls in Forest Park was about 10, 12 years ago, I decided, you know, I've been living near Forest Park most of the time that I've lived here in St. Louis. I'm not a native, but I really don't know the park that well. I can get to the zoo, I can get to the art museum, yes, I know they're next door to each other. I can get from one end to the other, not get too lost, but damn it, I need to come out and get to know this place better. I want to learn its natural geography, its man-made geography, and its wildlife. Like most of us here in this room, I'm blessed, I'm cursed with a variety of interests. There's only so many hours in the day, only so many shekels in the bank account, and different interests bubble up and disperse and bubble up again. And around this time, wildlife was bubbling up again. I thought, okay, I want to get to know the park more. I'm getting really, really back into wildlife again. Let me go to Forest Park, 2 blocks from my house, and see what I can find. And just a quick moment before we go too much further, many of you are used to seeing me more dressed like this. You know, dark, muted colors, festooned with binoculars and cameras. And yes, that is my car with my new plates. Thank you, Robin, for the picture. But I do want to verify that, yes, this is me, the same guy that you're used to seeing with the muddy boots and so on and so forth. So, now that we got that housekeeping out of the way, another bit of housekeeping. All but one of the pictures, besides Robin's, that you'll see, were taken by me in Forest Park. Another picture coming up was in Forest Park, but not taken by me. So one of the first noteworthy things I began to see were red-tailed hawks. Most of us have seen red-tailed hawks, the most widespread, commonly found hawk in North America. You see them flying over 40 and 170, catching the thermals, but still, pretty damn cool to see them. Also started to see things that I had never seen before. And this is a photo taken by Edward Krim. Some of you might remember his Forest Park 365 project, where he came to Forest Park every day and took brilliant photos like this. He's a superb professional photographer. And I began to see coyotes, and I've had some very memorable coyote sightings, and I had never seen coyotes before. Damn, that was thrilling. Also started to see other cool things. Belted kingfisher. This is a male. This was taken just a few weeks ago, actually in the very tree in which the owls are nesting as we speak. Very cool bird. You'll see it all year long. Always memorable. Back to the mammal side of things, we've got a muskrat swimming in the water. This is right by the Muni. Cool little critters. And I started to get to know other birds more. Some of the herons and egrets. This is a little blue heron over not too far from Steinberg Ice Rink. That is a great egret in the middle of a small lunch, but it adds up cumulatively. But I hadn't seen owls. But I wasn't shocked. If I can say now, after 7 years of reading and researching about owls, that I know something about owls. At the time I knew very little, but I knew enough to know that I'm probably not going to see them. Quick show of hands, who here has seen an owl in the wild? That is very, very good. That's like 60, 70%. Now, I will say that I've helped some of you, and I'm very pleased to say that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, yeah, you don't count. No, trust me, you count hugely. I had seen one owl in my life, and I knew enough about owls to know that they're hard to find. They're active when we're not. They're incredibly well camouflaged. They fly fast and silently. Other than that, no problem. I mean, oh, there's one. Yes, I see you. I just thought, I'm probably not going to see them. There, thankfully, were reputable people and reputable print sources that told me there are owls in Forest Park. I thought, great. I'm probably not going to see them, but good to know they're here. So one day, I'm coming through the Deer Lake Wet Savannah. It's now called the Deer Lake Natural Area. Memo to self, update that slide. And for someone who studied history, history is not all about dates, but dates are still important. And gosh, I wish I had written this date down, but it was sometime in late August, early September 2005. I was going by this big dead tree, and it was odd. I didn't look in this big dead tree, and I usually would, because why? I had seen cool things there over the years, and I have not made that mistake, I hope, in the ensuing years. So I walked past that tree, and then all of a sudden, from behind me, I heard hooting. And I said, okay, I've never heard owls hoot, but that is almost certainly an owl or owls hooting. Put it in reverse. There in that big dead tree were two great horned owls. Again, didn't know a lot about owls at the time, but knew enough to know that they were great horned. Big, big tufts. Amazing. They were just getting warmed up. For a first sighting, very, very hard to beat. In the next 20 to 30 minutes, I saw them hoot together in a duet. I saw them fly. Even 7 years later, seeing and hearing hooting and flying, it just doesn't get old. Sublime, beautiful. Words barely do it justice. And then just when I was completely blown away, we went up a whole nother level when one of them chased a great blue heron. A bird roughly twice its height. Actually, almost equally twice its height. A bird that, for the most part, could look every man, woman, or child here in the eye. And that great blue heron was not doing the W.C. Fields impression. He did not say, "Go away, kid, you're bothering me." He said, "Oh my God, I'm getting out of here as fast as my wings can take me." I came home, I eyes doing brilliant saucer impressions. I told my girlfriend Wendy all about it. And that's when the other side of the work began. I had bought a book on owls some weeks, months prior, just sort of adding to my animal library. Pulled it out. Thankfully it was a really good one. For a first book, very good one. Owls by Connie Toops. And read most of it that night. And then started looking for more books. We're definitely going to talk about this later, how libraries played and continue to play a role in what I do. And I started reading different books and applying what I learned and started going out to that same area time and time again. But didn't have a whole lot of luck. Very inconsistent sightings, about 1 out of every 10. Can I get a witness? Oh, that was the problem. Every time Wendy or another friend came out, guess what? No owls. And they were very kind and sympathetic and said, Mark, we believe you. And we're not seeing or hearing any owls. And then, 3 days later, oh, I saw them. But I wasn't deterred, and I continued doing something that I started to do and continue to do in terms of animals in Forest Park, or even in the St. Louis area. Collaboration, talking to people. Oh, you go to Forest Park. What wildlife have you seen? Oh yeah, really? Where have you seen it? When? Time of year, time of day, and what? What did you see? Just sort of building a little database, building relationships. That's one night, a colleague of mine said, you need to look about a half mile west of where you are. Cool. She said, yeah, I see owls there all the time. Thank you, Bapasha, that was very kind. I thought, all right, I'll bring it a little westerly. Oh man, luck really started to increase. 3 out of 10 times, Wendy finally saw a great horned owl. I finally had a witness. And that all led up to a very fateful day, December 29th, 2005. This is the date I use as my owliversary. Take anniversary and owl, owliversary. I went out there that night, and I saw a great horned owl fly into a hollow of a large cottonwood tree. He stretched, he groomed, he hooted, he flew off. And I thought, that was not an accident. That wasn't a pit stop. He lives there. That's one of his places. I'm going to come back tomorrow. Oh, my God, there he is. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So that's really what I mark my 7-year point, or as it's gone up to now. 8, 9, 10 out of 10 times successful. I'm very happy to say in the last 2 years, and probably beyond, I need to check my records and get the exact date, but at least for the last 2 years, I have never had a night where I've not seen at least one of them. And I average between 260 and 270 nights a year. So, a lot of sightings. I quickly came up with a name for this owl that I saw, Charles. Charles. I was reasonably sure he was the male, just by his hoots and so forth. Again, the reading informing me. He didn't say, I'm a male. The name Charles was kind of gut reaction. I thought, well, here's a name that's regal but has everyday associations. I also knew that Wendy would really like it. Well, Wendy is a cognoscenti of the cute. And when she comes out to see Charles, she'll look at him and gaze at him lovingly and say, oh, Charles, Charles. Just kind of cooing at him. And shortly thereafter, out in another hollow, in another cottonwood tree, I started to see another owl. Emerge, go back in. This big, brown, gray blur. I thought that's probably the female. And then finally, as we got into 2006, I heard them duet again. And I said, okay, I'm reading my stuff. Yeah, that's the female. But I didn't have a name for her yet. She was just the female, the enigmatic female. And I didn't have a name for a while. But first, before we go too much further, there is Charles in that hollow, tucked away, beautifully camouflaged. That is probably the best overall picture I have of him from there. As you'll see, thankfully, my photographer's skill and the photographer's equipment have both increased in quality. But I didn't have a name until a little later. In April 2006, I looked in the hollow from which the female was hooting, and I saw an owlet. And this is where, it's one of those things like, oh, I should have figured this out earlier. She's been nesting this whole time. Oh my God. And I quickly decided just to say Sarah. And a human, or several humans I should say, inspired this. In January of 2006, my friend Chad Henry and his wife Sarah had twins just a few months earlier. And I thought, two owls between humans. Sean and Maddie are the twins. They're now, I think they just turned 7. And so I decided to name the owl after their mom, Sarah. Now Sarah the human is thrilled to have a beautiful great horned owl named after her. And the kids, Sean and Maddie, as soon as they could talk, have always referred to me as the man who chases owls. For the record, I don't chase, at least in the active running sense. Walking, reacquiring, or attempting to reacquire, yes. So, this is both a personal story of the owls and my work with them, but this is also a great chance to learn about great horned owls. So some quick facts, and then we'll interrelate facts and about great horns and facts about Charles and Sarah. So the scientific name is Bubo virginianus. And bubo is Greek for hoot or horned owl. Virginianus is a Latinization meaning from Virginia. It's one of the places they were first found. They are the most widespread, commonly found owl in North America and much of Latin America as well. Basically anywhere from the tree line in Canada and Alaska all the way down to the southern tip of South America. The only big spots where you won't see them are the Caribbean, Amazon River Basin, the tundra, and super tall mountains. Other than that, all over the place. So here are Charles and Sarah. Charles lower on the left, Sarah up high on the right. And notice the difference in size and color, and we'll talk about that some more. Great horned owls are the 3rd largest owl in North America by height, and they are the 2nd largest in weight. The range of height and weight starts about 18 inches to about 25. Weight about 2 to 4 pounds. I was talking with you, ma'am, about releasing the great horned owl. We both had that extreme privilege to do that late last year. And you were surprised at how light they were. Well, a great horned owl, say 18 to 25 inches, is only that much. Hollow bones. Without hollow bones, it's very difficult to fly. And feathers are as light as a... Excellent. One of the fascinating things about Charles and Sarah, and the fascinating things about Legion, is that they are very, very big great horned owls. I've been very lucky to see other great horned owls in the wild, in zoos. I got to hold one in my hands, and even museum specimens. And Charles and Sarah are just gigantic. Those of you who take someone to a pediatrician, they are 90th, 100th percentile owls. They are just gigantic. Another incredible thing, eyes as large as every grown-up here in the room. Big, big eyes. Think of that. I'm a puny 5'8". They have the same size owls. They come up to maybe my kneecaps. We got the same eyes. Pretty wild. So, into more details to tell them apart. Charles is smaller. And this is like most birds of prey, and this phenomenon of the male being smaller is called reverse sexual dimorphism. Let's all try that together. Reverse sexual dimorphism. Now, those of you that know me know this challenge, and I hope you've passed the challenge, but folks who are new, who have not been on a prowl or seen one of my talks, I'm going to issue a challenge, and this is serious. No fooling. I want you to use that term, reverse sexual dimorphism, at your next cocktail party. Whether you're hosting, crashing, guests, just try and swing it in there. Well, speaking of the economy, so Charles is smaller. He's about 20 to 22 inches tall. He's about 2 to 3 pounds. He's more varied in color. With Charles, you get more light orange, more light brown. He's got a lot more white as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous owl. Sarah is bigger. She is about 22 to 25 inches tall. We're coming down to the Super Bowl time, but I make this analogy year-round. Males are linebackers. They're big, they're bad, they're tough. You wouldn't want to mess with them. Females are linemen. Bigger, badder, tougher. You really don't want to mess with them. So Sarah's about 22 to 25 inches tall. She's about 3 to 4 pounds. Also darker and less varied in color, a lot more dark brown, dark orange, less white overall. Ladies, I always give a little makeup tip, courtesy of Sarah. Sarah has a beautiful circle of black feathers around her eyes. Really make the eyes pop. Just something to think about next time. Anybody who wears guy liner, you're on your own. Another neat thing about Sarah, especially huge talons. Massive, massive talons. There is a picture of Sarah in the new issue, the February issue of Missouri Conservationist, taken by the brilliant, there she is. Well, that's a short account. Sarah's in there. And it's a great talent shot. The photographer and writer of the piece, Nop Palfon, got a brilliant talent shot. So, since December 2005, I've seen many different aspects of their life, and I'm going to show you a few. And most of the pictures come from the last several years, where thanks to Wendy's ever supportive support, I've been able to get better cameras and binoculars and lenses and things like that. So, I try and get out about an hour or so before sunset. It's basically watching them wake up and get ready for the day. And like all critters, even like us, they stretch. And this is Charles doing a stretch that I call the escalator stretch. And I'm going to show you a video. We're having a little bit of an IT problem. The memory of the computer can't quite hang with the speed and file size of some of these videos, so it'll be a little jagged, but you'll see it. Yes, Lee?
Can you repeat what time of day that was for you?
This is, this was September 29th, 2010. This is probably after 6 o'clock, roughly. I mean, I could check the timestamp of that photo.
As someone new to all this, I was just really...
Yeah, basically an hour before sunset, and as we all know, sunset is a moving target. They don't wear watches, but I have to. We change our clocks, they're like, yep, we're just reacting to the photo period, the amount of light. So let's see Charles do an escalator stretch, and this was actually, if I can see the video, taken last night.
Oh, wow.
So 1 second, I'm just going to advance it ever so slightly. It's a little jagged, it's not always a full stretch. It's actually HD for that. So that's an escalator stretch. The other stretch that they do, I call it the double wing stretch. They lean over and stretch both their wings right over their head. And they also spread out their tail feathers. It's always really cool to see. So that's just part of their waking up routine. I roughly make an equivalent of what I do is with them is see them wake up, get ready for their day, school, work, what have you. And then maybe if I'm lucky, I get to see some of that. I mean, it's like if they saw me wake up, get dressed, shower, breakfast, go to the office, and maybe work for 20 minutes. That's roughly what they would say. Pellets. Who here knows about owl pellets? Has dissected an owl pellet? Very good, very good. I had not even heard of owl pellets before I started to study these guys. Here is Sarah in mid-pellet ejection. Yes, that is the pellet coming out of her mouth. This was last month. All the things that an owl cannot digest, fur, feathers, bones, insect exoskeletons, they compact into a pellet and eject it out of their mouth. Now they do produce droppings as well. The droppings chemically are more akin to urination, uric acids and acids and things like that. But pellets are the solid waste. It's quite something to see. So let's see on. I think we've got a recent one. January 4th. Yes, that's the one. 4. Again, from this year.
Busy and sort of lean down.
Collar on him starts to
Look at
expand.
that. Oh yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Excellent analogy. Like a cat with a fur ball. Doesn't hurt, not very pleasant. Watch him see twitch his neck. In 7 years, I'd never seen that. I was like, okay, that's good. And that's one of the things that keeps you coming back.
How often do they do that?
A pellet they'll eject about every, as long as they've eaten something, they have to have something to eat to eject. A pellet takes about 18 to 14 hours to form inside them. Forms inside their crop, or not their crop, I beg your pardon, their gizzard, and then ejects out of their mouth. And here is a pellet close up, one he ejected a couple of years ago, and you can see the bones of the critter sticking out. And pellets are a great, very non-invasive way to find out what they've been eating, because you don't have to dissect the animal while it's still living. They just eject the pellet, you find the pellet. It's also a good thing, as I was saying to you, ma'am, in our email, good thing to look for. If you're looking for owls, look up for them, certainly, but also look down for pellets and their droppings. Their droppings are a stark white color, often described as whitewash, and it looks just like whitewash paint. And of course, I've seen them hoot. Most people, at a very young age, what sound does an owl make? Hoot. Here is Charles in mid-hoot. Hooting is very much a territorial declaration. It lets, in the case of great horned owls, know that other great horned owls, this is our place, stay away. It's both a vocal display and also a visual display, and an extremely beautiful one. The visual display comes from that white collar and their tail feathers. The tail feathers, they pop up, and like that collar, it's a stark, bright white. And believe me, on a dark, moonless night, even with my pathetic human eyes, well, I have pretty good eyes for a human, but our eyes are pretty pathetic, you can see that. And that is, again, a signal. You're going to hear me. In the right conditions, their hoots can travel miles, but you're also going to see me. So let's see some hooting. I am just going to change this view, large icons, that's better for me. So another way that you tell owls apart by sex is by their hoot. Charles has a nice typical male great horned owl hoot. Low, long notes. And here he is. Sarah, on the other hand, is a good typical female. Here's her back in August. Females have shorter, higher notes, and more of them. So often when people say, oh, I heard an owl, I'll make a fool of myself for the first or the last time, and perform some hoots for them, and often you can match it up, and I'll say, yes, that's a barred owl, or, oh, you got a female great horn, congrats. A fascinating thing about the hoots is those general patterns that I described for male and female are pretty solid down the line. Each call of each individual is unique, which is quite a cool thing. I mean, it's frightening, but I've become a mentor to several people about owls, and one of my mentees is here, and she and her boyfriend Chris recently refined an owl that they had lost track of for a little while, and were able to positively identify the owl as not just a male. That's John. We know that call. He's got that trill at the end. So, pretty neat little thing. Hooting as individuals and then hooting together, a duet. Duetting is believed to be both a territorial declaration and a pair bonding exercise. Great horned owls mate for life. It's practic and romantic all at once. And when you see them duet, you can definitely see that, yes, there's some pair bonding going on. Most of the literature states that, for the most part, females will hoot first, but Charles generally hoots first. But Sarah, the past few years, has been doing a little more first hoots. Not so much this year. This year, the past 3 years, she's been doing more first hoots each year, but not this year. And that's one of the great things of doing something like this long term and in great depth and detail. You get all these little subtleties down. And duetting is very gorgeous. So we'll watch them duet back in September. Now this is the early part of a duet. They're calling relatively close together. Charles is up high on the right, Sarah down low on the left. Then I'll show you this. If this was a car, this duet would be in about third gear, and I'll show you a duet that's in about fifth. Starts to get really intense. Here's them in fifth gear of a duet. Charles up high on the left. Charles also likes to kind of wear these off. Yes, my arms do get tired.
I'd make it harder for him. You can have this
Is this how light it was outside, or did you have?
Yeah, this was rather dark. That was December
It seems kind of light though.
2009. Yeah, 2009. There was a decent amount of light at the time. Yes.
Do you find that their calls like that become more intense or whatever if they're like preceding mating?
Took the words out of my mouth.
Okay. Mark?
Everyone will get there. Yes, please.
Just really curious, as you brought it up, what happens when one of the mated pair dies?
Excellent question. A lot is needed to know about this. One of the amazing things about great horned owls is they're, as I said, the most widespread commonly found owls in North America. There is still a boatload of stuff to learn. It has been observed that when one dies, they're able to find a mate quite quickly. They're not quite sure how that happens, why it happens so quickly, but it does. It's nice to know. No Match.com, nothing like that. Flying, of course, the birds, incredible flyers. Here is Sarah in mid-flight last year. And look, 2 owlets in the nest. We had just popped out of that hollow. This goes under the category of very, very, very lucky photos. It is amazingly fast, 20 to 40 miles per hour, and heart-stoppingly silent. And you might think silent flight, big deal. You know, that robin doesn't sound like a Southwest 737 going to Charlotte. No. Wait till you have an owl that flies silently, and most owls will. Wait till you have one fly by you, say at like 20 feet. And it's not just quiet, it is an absence of sound. It almost makes everything around you quiet. They're able to fly silently due to the construction of their feathers. The leading and trailing edges of their flight feathers are serrated, so the air just passes right over them. The material of the feathers is incredibly soft, so when they move together, they don't make any noise. Now, if you ever find an owl feather, pick it up, look at it, take pictures, leave it there. You have to have the proper federal and I think even state permits to possess any part of a bird of prey. But definitely do not go away without touching it, because it is insanely soft. And don't be surprised if you find yourself, doing your best impression of Lenny from Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Oh, it's all soft and purry. Oh, it's a Christmas, I've been here for 9 months. Incredible. And when they go by you, it's just insane. I had Charles fly by me last week at eye level, about 3 to 6 feet away, and he hooted as we were conjunct. I had the video for Wendy the following morning, and you hear me, he had just made a predatory attempt on something. Whoo! Thanks for listening. Yeah, very, very cool. I can tell you a number of stories about close flights, and a number of them involve, wow, it's great. And my pants are dry because that was pretty scary. So let's watch some flying. So here is Sarah flying out of the nest, just like you saw her there. This is from last year when they were nesting in a very easy to see spot, a place where they had nested once before. And there she is at the edge of the nest. If you look extra quickly, you can see a glimpse of an owlet as she leaves the nest hollow.
Southern grass tree.
Huge wingspan, about a little under 4 feet to a little under 5. Sarah, if there was such a contest, she would win it, and that contest would be doing an imitation of a B-52 Stratobomber. Massive, massive wings. Here is another flight of Sarah from 2011. Good to see her flying for quite a ways.
Wow.
Now right there, she probably did about 100 to 200 yards in a time that would make the multiple Olympic gold-winning sprinter Usain Bolt green with jealousy. Like, I've got nothing. And it's so fast and so silently, I can't tell you how many times I have looked down to adjust my camera or make sure my shoes are tied, or what was the name of my 3rd grade gym teacher? They're gone. I have no idea where they went. The other day, I saw Charles. I knew I had to turn a blind corner. I heard him hoot. I came around the corner, gone. No idea. North, west, south, east, straight up, no idea. Happens all the time. So flying, it just doesn't get old. Hunting. Can everyone see that picture okay? This is Charles hunting back in November in a part of the park I call the Hilly Wooded area. One of the amazing things about great horned owls, and this is again the benefits of doing research, is it changes what you think. I thought, okay, they probably eat rodents and rabbits. And yes, they do. What? That? Oh my God. On the small side, insects. On the big side, raccoons, skunks, other owls, hawks, ducks, geese, herons, egrets, possums, domestic cats, small domestic dogs. They eat a wider variety of prey than any other owl in North America. In Forest Park, only a few things they can't eat, and that's like adult coyotes and foxes and common snapping turtles. Everything else is on the menu. How do they catch all this stuff? Silent flight is a huge part. And the silent flight works two ways. It allows them both to approach undetected, but it gives them a solid, silent gradient against which to listen for changes in the location of their prey. I'm going for a meadow vole. Would you like to be a meadow vole? I'm coming for a meadow vole. Oh wait, I heard you move 2 inches to the left. Why? Because I'm flying silently. Oh, and I have really good hearing. Instead of putting out my talons here, I'm going to put them out right here. And then with the shock and impact of that fast and silent flight, you have a big advantage. It's kind of like a commando raid. We weren't expecting you. And then in comes the weaponry. Remember Sarah, those big talons? The diameter of the spread of the great horned owl's talons, on the small side about 4 inches across, on the big side about 8 inches across. Huge. And they close with massive amounts of power. The power in their leg muscles and their talons is such that at times they can break bone and puncture organs. And the way the leg musculature works, I know I've done that before, the leg musculature. When the talons close, short of about 30 pounds of pressure or the owl's leg being straightened out, they're not letting go. An animal struggles against that, just gets more and more impaled on these talons. Now, going to find them hunt, that's the challenge. The first year or first while, I remember, oh, there they go. All right, I'm done. You know, how can I find them? I'm thrilled that I can find them perching and hooting and all this sort of stuff. Never mind when they're trying to be extra discreet. I realized, you know, if I don't try, I'm guaranteed 100% failure rate. So I said, all right, I'll just go out and do it. And it's one of the most challenging, but also one of the most rewarding things. People will say, well, how do you find the owls in general? And what? You find them hunting? They go flying? You find them 1/3 of a mile away, 1/2 mile away? I answered with 3 little letters, ESL. Not English as a second language. I hope I've demonstrated that tonight. But experience, skill, and luck. And trust me, it takes all 3 some nights. And sometimes luck is super huge. Other times it's that experience that you build up over the days and months and weeks and years. Other times it's those skills of, you know, I can walk pretty quietly. I spend a lot of time sneaking upstairs in my parents' house and not waking them. I can move pretty quietly. You know, all those little things. I know what to look and listen for. And when you see them out hunting, even if they're not flying and attacking something, but just there waiting, you're just truly in their world. You just can't help but think, this is their time. This is their place. You know, my body's telling me, shut down, go have dinner and a cocktail, and they're just getting wound up. And when you see them go for something, it's not casual. It's not like, oh, there's a meadow vole, I think I'll just drift over it. No, it is, there's meadow vole, I am going for you. It is the epitome of focused action and just purposeful action too. So you have these animals that eat all these different things and they have all these great tools to do it. You must have seen them catch a million things. Well, not really. Any decent nature documentary worth its weight in money or anything like that will tell you, whether it's snakes or what have you, most predators miss more than they hit. And I knew that empirically, but seeing these guys for 7 years and see them miss and miss and miss and miss, and even miss some more, has just borne that out. I've seen scores, probably hundreds of predatory attempts. I've seen probably about 24 successful ones. It is tough. The thing that they go for most, in terms that I've seen the sheer number of attempts, eastern gray squirrels. Probably neck and neck with humans as the most ubiquitous mammal in Forest Park. I've seen a handful of successful catches. So let's look at some predatory attempts. Successful, unsuccessful, otherwise. One of the more dramatic things they go for is when they go for something in flight. And that's just not birds, but also bats. And this is Sarah going for a bat. you will see her fly out of the right-hand side of the screen and make a radical jinking turn going for said bat.
There he goes. Whoa, going for that. Jeez.
Let's play that once more. And I'll even play that a third time, just slow
There he
down.
goes. Whoa, going for that. Jeez. There he goes.
Okay, let's do the old fast forward thing. So here's Sarah flying with those huge wings. There's the bat. And she starts to make this turn. And look how close she gets. She gets about one wing length. And notice here, her talons are dropping. She's going to try and catch that. But she gets close. The bat, fast, agile, echolocation never hurts. Gets away. I've seen Sarah successfully catch about 2 bats, and Charles about 5 or 6. Always something neat to see. Now here's a successful predatory attempt. You really won't see the prey in Charles's talons or bill in this video, but you will see him make the attempt. This is January 2011. Watch as he gets closer to the ground, the minute adjustments he makes, slowing down, listening, and boom. Small rodent, maybe even metal. It was really neat. Sarah was nesting at that time in the same spot that they're nesting in now, and he went up and gave it to her, which was really cool. And he came out of the hollow, and I don't think I'm overly anthropomorphizing here, but he was kind of hooting with this chest swell Tarzan-esque I provided. Here is the aftermath of a successful predatory attempt. This is in March 2011. They had 2 owlets that year. This is Sarah feeding the owlets, Dalton and Monica, an eastern cottontail rabbit, definitely one of their favorite foods. Sarah will tear off a huge chunk of the rabbit, give it to one of the owlets, and meanwhile the other owlet comes flying over and lands right next to its sibling and gets its whole wing over the owlet's head. Meanwhile the other owlet's trying to bolt down the food.
She's feeling it on. Alice just held up on the owlets.
Leg of the rabbit dangling there.
That's a big bite. There goes her throat.
Yeah. And you'll go days and weeks with maybe not seeing an attempt or seeing a successful one, but once you see something like that, you're just hooked. So, as I said, all sorts of different things. I mean, the range of prey, all that stuff I listed. Yes, I read it in a book, and I've seen it in Forest Park. Within the last 6 to 8 weeks, my friend and mentee Brenda, who's I'm happy to say is here, along with my mentee and friend Barb. Brenda and I saw Charles go for raccoon, and then Brenda saw Charles go for a great blue heron. So when that great blue heron got the hell out that first time I saw him, that was not hyperbole, as they say. A real deal. And here's a lucky rabbit's foot with leg attached, and I just found another one the other day. Now, we were talking about duetting. We had some great questions about it. Is duetting related to mating? And yes, it is, for the most part. Mating will usually occur at the apex of duet. Remember that back and forth rapid duet we were hearing? Reasonably sure that they did not mate that night. But I was sitting there, I hadn't hit the pause button because I was waiting for them to mate, because usually it's intense duetting, and then they'll mate. It is very brief. Women often comment on this. It is very rarely seen occurrence. I'm not kidding when I say that it's very rarely seen. I mentioned how much there is to learn about great horned owls. Mating for great horned owls was not discussed, written about, observed, put into the scientific literature until the 1990s. Not 1890s, 1990s. One of the most important parts of an animal's life cycle, reproducing, had not been seen in an animal that you can find in 49 states. I have been very lucky to have seen Charles and Sarah mate over 100 times. I've been able to document it quite a bit. I'm hoping at some point to write a scientific journal article, since I have so much data and firsthand experience with it. And even on a few nights, I've seen them mate twice in the same night. This year there was one mating followed by another, and I don't think it was no more than 15 minutes. That was a new peak. So let's watch them mate. Cover kids' eyes as needed. This is from last year. This was a tree in which they mated a lot. Sometimes they seem to mix it up, but this was definitely the marital bed last year. This is Sarah in shot. You hear Charles and Sarah. This is Charles flying. And they mate for about 4 to 6 weeks out of the year, which is quite something. So, out of mating comes nesting. You know, Charles and Sarah sitting in a tree, M-A-T-I-N-G. I've seen them be very interesting with nesting. Great horns nest in more different spaces and places than any other bird in North America. Not just owl, any other bird. But Charles and Sarah have been very particular. They've been picky or lucky or both. They have always nested in hollows or snags of cottonwoods, and they've even repeated some of these places. I won't go through all the back and forth here of the different trees in different years, but literally the tree in which they are nesting in now, they have nested in 2 different hollows in 4 different years, so quite something. They lay 2 to 3 eggs on average. The most I've ever seen Charles and Sarah have is 3. And incubation averages 32, 33 days. Very interesting division of labor. Sarah is a paragon of motherhood. She will be on the nest for over 23 hours a day. Come out, stretch, groom, defecate, eject a pellet, maybe do that a little with Charles, back in the nest. She might do that 2 or 3 times in 24 hours. On a real cold night, she'll be out for a shorter time, warmer night, a longer time. Don't worry, Charles is not sitting on his butt, watching the game, playing Xbox, what have you. Charles is hunting for himself, and then for Sarah, and then once the owlets come about, he's hunting for all of them until the owlets are old enough and they leave the nest and Sarah can hunt as well. So he has a very strong responsibility. One of the fascinating things to see, and this year it happened again. The first night Sarah was nesting, and this year, for the second time, it was on New Year's Eve. It was like seeing this hormonal chemical switch thrown. Sarah just came out of the nest. Up, I'm golf. And he came back pretty quickly, 15, 20 minutes with something. It's just like click, I have to go provide. The wild thing is that here they are nesting in January. Actually, they started late December. The 2 years prior, they started in mid-December. Why are they nesting so early? No one else is even thinking of kids. Spring, children, blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason they do this is because the owlets take a long time to become independent. And it's a very interesting paradox because guess what? They get huge fast. The owlets, they can be 2.5 months old and be 10, 20% smaller than their parents. in height and weight. When I do owl prowls in the summer, it's very interesting, human psychology thing. I'll tell people now the owlets are really big. They're almost as big as the parents, and I know we have some teachers in the audience, and you see people just kind of nod and half listen, and you're like, okay, they're not really listening. And then they see an owl, oh my God, it's huge! It's almost as big as the parent! Yeah, I think I heard that. That was me. So they grow physically very fast, but everything else takes a long time to mature and develop. They take a long time to become independent. Last year, let's do this real quick, they started mating this November 26th, started nesting December 17th. Youngsters hatched probably in late January. Youngsters were here until August, ladies and gentlemen. It's a long time. Because the youngsters take so long to mature, they are one of the first birds, if not the first bird, no matter where they're found, to nest. Parents in the audience, be sure to ask me later how they get the youngsters to leave the house. This is definitely applicable.
I have a question.
So with nesting,
I have a question.
real quick, sure.
Yeah, I noticed that they never nested the same place the same year. Is that like a natural preventive for insects and diseases or mites and stuff like that?
Excellent question and excellent insight into that. Yes, the literature does talk about that, but you will see that they won't nest the same where the same place because why they've been bringing all this prey back and it gets full of nesty and kind of a hot zone and you don't want to go there again. That is what I have seen. Some of the literature that has said, yeah, they'll nest in, we have seen and documented the same pair nested in the same place in successive years. I've seen Charles and Sarah repeat an exact nest spot, not just a tree, but I've never seen it in consecutive years. It's always been 2-3 years apart at a minimum. Where they nested last year, they nested there in 2008. Great spot. So with nesting comes owlets, and I've seen them have 15, and hopefully we'll have more this year. They had 2 in 2006, and here is one of them buried in the woods. This is a little tricky to see. They had 1 in 2007, just poking his head out of that snag. That was a great day. I literally turned the corner. I mean, I didn't know where the nest tree was, and there he was poking his head out. They had 3 in 2008, and that was the first year I named the owlets. And I had to name the owlets simply to keep track of them. They laid their eggs at different times. Here's another fancy word, asynchronously. And the owlets generally hatch in the order that they were laid. So you get a hatching order or birth order. I'm one of 6 kids, so I'm sympathetic to these family dynamic issues. So I needed a naming convention that gave their hatching order, their age. I never know if I'm right with sex when it comes to the owlets. The only way to determine sex is A, wait for them to grow up, or B, capture them and do a rather invasive investigation, or examination I should say. So I named them, it came to me quickly, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. I'm a big Simpsons fan. And here they are peeking out of that hollow. 2009 they had 2 owlets, and we named them Art and Mo after some deceased loved ones, and here they are at about, let's see, at this point, probably about 3 to 4 months old. Very, very big. And 3 again in 2010. So I said, okay, I need another naming convention. I always liked the show Malcolm in the Middle, so I named them after the boys in the show, or some of the boys on the show, Reese, Malcolm, and Dewey. And this was one of a couple of nights that year where I literally came into their territory. There they were. We're ready for our portraits at Sears. Just sitting right there. And one of the fun things to do is to try and keep track of them as they grow and develop. Eventually, those differences in size from when they hatch and things like that disappear. But even after that, you will see. Then you'll start to see differences in colors and feather maturation.
Can I ask, how far away are you standing and how much is this telescopic lens?
Let's see, that was pretty far away. That was a 300 millimeter lens. I was probably about 60 to 100 feet horizontally from them. And that is definitely a topic to talk about. 2 owlets again in 2011. Dalton and Monica, another in memoriam naming. One of Wendy's favorite things on the owlets are, as their juvenile feathers start to come off, it just hangs in this loose gathering that she calls the fluff. And if I can, I always try to get good pictures of the fluff. And here's the two they had this year, and you can see some of the fluff. Christopher and Velvet, another in memoriam naming. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that is Christopher on the left and Velvet on the right. I have to double check. And even over the years, remember all those things I first began to see? By spending more time out here, I got to see even more cool things. You can't help when you do something like this, when you're focusing on one thing, but see other things like this. This was a bald eagle at the Grand Basin on December 31st, 2009. I was telling the group that last winter that, if you concentrate on one thing wildlife-wise, you're going to see other cool things. A few minutes later, almost as if on cue, 1, 2 mature bald eagles flew right over us. Thank you. Checks in the mail. Minks. I'm reasonably confident and rather proud to say that I was one of the first people to see minks return to Forest Park. And just an amazing animal to see. That was literally this summer, and they've come back in good, strong numbers. Foxes. Foxes were a bit of a bugaboo for me because it took me a long time to find them. Here I was spending thousands of hours in the park, and I hadn't seen foxes until, fall 2010. But I finally got to see a fair number. And this is literally right on Government Drive by Perth Fountain, the fountain with all the lights and so forth. Common snapping turtles. I'm a big reptile person from an early age, and it's amazing seeing common snapping turtles. In fact, this is right in the owl's territory, and I've seen little ones and bloody big dinosaurs like this. I just want to, before I completely conclude, I want to talk about owls and libraries because the two are very closely linked for me. So I mentioned when I started this that I had one book on owls, now I have over 40. Well, where did I find it? How did I know what books were out there? Libraries. I've been a big library patron from an early age. I work at Fontbonn's library. Wendy is a librarian, and I go to libraries all the time. We're very blessed here in the St. Louis area to have a number of great libraries. We have the municipal library system here, we have the county system, we have the city system, and it's a great place to find information on whatever you're into, be it owls, for free or low cost. And if you have access to an academic library, you work at a school, you're an alum or so forth, don't be shy about inquiring, hey, what can I use, what can I get? And the vast majority of books that I own, I checked out multiple times before buying them. Actually, I just bought a new book on owls, and I said, oh, that looks pretty cool, and I bought it. And I haven't gone through it in depth, but my initial reaction was, this is one I would buy for $8 on half.com. I just paid, whatever, $25 off of Amazon. I should have waited till I could have found it at a library, gone to the library, checked it out, and then see what I want to do with it. If you're not great with using libraries, it's okay. Ask the staff, ask Dawn, ask the people at the different libraries for help. If you are good, trust me, you can always get better. Ask the staff. They can help you find things. As you exhaust some sources, check out others. Children's books have some of the best nature photography across the spectrum that you'll find. Check out the databases for magazine and journal articles. And if you want, I can be more than happy to send you an owl bibliography of websites and books that I like to use. And I'm always looking for more. Wendy is always digging for things to find me. Wendy's also very sweet. She also tries to find new mentions of me on the web that I haven't found yet. And often she has. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. So I'd like to conclude by thanking you for having me speak today, and I would like to invite you all to join me on an owl prowl. I've got business cards up at front. An owl prowl, it's a 24-hour thing. He's been on one. It's a all-year thing. Every season has joys, every season has challenges. I'm sure you can imagine the challenge of this time of year. It's crazy. The joys are, they're very active, they're easier to find. On my card is email, phone, blog, and Twitter information. And before we go to questions, I'd like to present Dawn and the Maplewood Public Library with a little gift. I was checking your catalog, and you have some nice kids' books on owls. but I thought you could use one of my favorite books on owls, Owls of the United States and Canada by Wayne Lynch, a brilliant naturalist and photographer. And now this will be available to all of you to check out.
Thank you very much.
So please, questions, go nuts. Yes, ma'am. Eileen. And if I forget names, I'm sorry. But
You mentioned that if the male should die and the female immediately finds a mate, does she bring that mate to her home or does she go to his home?
that is an excellent question. As I go back, and this will be one of those mental notes, check the reading. You remember the stuff pretty well, but double check it. I don't think I've ever seen it broken down by sex and then geography. An interesting thing is that there are a few documented cases of while nesting, having eggs or youngsters, one of them dying and the other being able to be a successful single parent. That is probably the exception, not the rule. They need a lot of keeping warm and protected. They need a lot of food, hard to do both. Yes, ma'am.
How far away do the owlets move when they're grown and they're moving out of the nest, so to speak?
Definitely.
Like in finding their mate, how far away do they go?
Well asked. This is in the FAQ list. This is probably top 5%. Where do the owlets go? The short answer is they go as close as they can get away with. They know that's a good spot to be. There's food. There's places to hang out. You know, it's how close to the fridge will mom and dad let us go? All the way up to about 100 miles away. That's the average maximum. There have been other documented cases. For example, one, an owlet, great horned owlet, banded in Alberta, found over 1,000 miles away in Illinois. An exception, not the rule, but within about 100 miles. And this whole process is called dispersal, and it's very important. It, one, allows the prey populations to remain steady. The amount of food to feed a family of 3 or 4 or 5 for 7 to 9 months is incredible. You can't do that 12 months a year. Every year, Wendy, she's so awesome and sweet. She thinks, she'll say, maybe this will be the year that the owlets will get to stay, and then we'll have other owlets next year, and there'll be a big family. And, you know, then I finish reading her the bedtime story. No, it's a very sweet question, but it's just not going to happen. I mean, I remember in 2008, the last night that I saw an owlet, Charles and Sarah were duetting, they're like, all right, go away, and Alice in there, begging for food. And they're like, you're done. Bye. Very caring parents up to a point. Again, other parents, I'm happy to stay late and ask questions and give advice from the owls, how to get your kids out of the house. Other questions? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
What does an owl prowl entail?
Thousands of dollars, small unmarked bills. An owl prowl involves contacting me. You've got my information up here. Find a date that works. The time is pretty rigid. It's about an hour before sunset, but that time, as I mentioned earlier, is a moving target. I've had people say, oh, I went out to look for the owls at 2 o'clock and I couldn't find them. And I said, go look for me at my job at 2 in the morning. Didn't think so, yeah. So it involves finding a date and time. I give a, hopefully not too detailed, but pedantic list of what to wear, what not to wear. Unfortunately, I've had to do that. I've taken people out in this type of weather, and they've like, oh, I've got, you know, a sweatshirt on. I'm like, you okay? So basically involves that. I don't charge. I ask if possible. People make a donation to Forest Park Forever. I also volunteer for Forest Park Forever. It is not an obligation by any means. Yes, sir, in the back.
I know that the location of the owls is probably somewhat sacred and secret to the whole process. I know that you mentioned they're in the western portion of the park at times.
He was listening.
I am reading. I've read the blog. I actually emailed you. I'm the gentleman that emailed you.
No, thank you. Good. Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
I'll be here. So just generally speaking, I mean, you said there are different locations that they've mated and nested. Is it all across the park? I mean, it's a gigantic park, so.
Good question. I generally will not say,
sure,
here they are. I'm not from Missouri, but I really like the ethos of the Show Me State. if you show me that you're serious and you want to come out on an owl prowl, and I'm very happy to say that a lot of people here in this audience have done that more than once, and they've come out on their own. Wow, that was amazing. I have to see it again. If you show me you're serious, I'll show you a lot of stuff. I learned from collaborating, but I also learned a lot on my own. I mean, I literally have spent thousands of hours doing this. Also, their well-being is paramount in my mind. Some of the folks were asking, well, how close you were. First couple of years, I always had a tree between me and them, and I kept quite far. And just over the years, I've gradually gotten closer. And you know, the other day, this photographer went right up to Charles, and I had to admonish him later. I said, "You don't do that on the first date." You know. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Do they acknowledge you ever, or how do they react to your presence?
Great question. You know, there is an element of recognition. It's not like, oh, Mark, how's your mom? Did you get our Christmas card? Any day now. From the frequency, and very importantly, from the respect, dressing in low dark colors. Many of you have probably not ever seen me wear white. White, don't wear it. In the park, at least. And never after Labor Day. The respect, the frequency, it's just an element of recognition. It's like, oh yeah, there's that guy. He's not going to get too close. He's not going to bother us. We've gotten to know him a little. But I don't rely on that. You know, I don't want to, you know, it's not like the Grizzly Man. Oh, the Grizzlies know me. Yes, they got to know you very well, inside and out. There is something like that, and that is really special, but that is so gradual, so, you know, the way I look at it, and, you know, if you've heard this before, I apologize. Forest Park, it's our park. It's the jewel, the crown jewel of St. Louis. We're going to go to the park and do all sorts of things. Community, picnics, stroll, skywatch, what have you. Then we're going to go home. Well, for the owls, for all the other critters there, they are home. It's incumbent upon us to be a good guest. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions.
Please.
First, do you ever ban the owlets, and are there natural predators?
Do I ever ban the owlets, and are there natural predators? I have not banned them. That is something I've debated, and I've generally concluded no. I would like to, from the scientific aspect, but just relating to my previous comments about that rapport and so forth, I would think even if I got the permits and I was with people that knew what they were doing, that has the potential to disrupt that rapport at the least. Potential predators, when they're young, they're definitely at risk to a number of things. Eggs, everyone loves eggs. Lots of critters eat eggs, big, small, mammal, avian, what have you. When they're owlets, raccoons, hawks, other owls, crows, at times can be a threat to them. Sarah, part of her paragon of parenthood is being a hyper-protective mother. My favorite example of that was in spring of 2008. I arrived in the park after work. There's Sarah, three owlets, and I see Sarah fly a short distance. Not far, still in the neighborhood. Hawk, big hawk, like that red-tailed, lands in the same tree as one of the owlets. And he's going, medium rare, how do I want it? Next thing, here comes Sarah. Wrath of God, speed and power. That hawk just out of there as soon as it could. They are young, they are vulnerable. Unfortunately, a lot will not make it past the first year. I've seen them all fledge successfully and leave, but statistically, a lot will not make it past the first year, and a lot will not make it past the second year. When you're a top tier, top of the food chain predator like these guys, one of the few limiters on your population is starvation. You've got all these things that you can eat, but it doesn't come packaged in the store. You have to go out and find it. And if you don't find it, things get tough. And I always tell people, being a predator is tough. They miss more than they hit. Guess what? You get injured, it's not like, okay, we got another male on the bench, let's go. No, that can be a serious problem. Cars are probably my biggest worry in Forest Park. I mean, that other night when he went by me at eye level, he was at van level too, or SUV or what have you. And you'll see them go 2 feet over the road, and then the next time they'll go 90 feet over the road. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How many pairs are in Forest Park?
Currently, there is Charles and Sarah. There was a pair in another part of the park of late. My friend Robin has only seen the male. There are other owls in the area. There are at least 2 and possibly 3 pairs of barred owls, and that's been pretty steady over the years with possibly some others out there. I've seen a short-eared owl once. Eastern screech owls I haven't seen since fall, winter 2005, 2006. And Charles and Sarah might be a big part of that, since they can eat eastern screech owls and many other things.
Do they get territorial with other owls of their own species?
Oh, big time, big time. Last year was the most territorial stuff I ever have seen occurred on the Forest Park, St. Louis Audubon beginning bird walk, which I highly recommend to everyone. First Saturday of every month, 8:15 at the Visitor Center. Last winter, the group saw a great horned owl not far from where I first saw them that first night. That night, Charles and Sarah chased it away. Another time later that year, there was a great horn very close to their territory, and Sarah was nesting, and again, she'll only take these brief breaks. She was out of the nest for like 30, 40 minutes. They're duetting and hooting. The other pair that's in Forest Park, we had Barb, you and Chris were out there last year, and you were like, oh, hey, we were over here, and our pair was really duetting a lot of hooting. And I said, I was about 200 yards on the other side, and Charles and Sarah duetting. That was a little border dispute going on. Other questions? I saw some other hands. Yes, Aileen, please.
What would you consider the average lifespan of an owl?
Oh, that's
If
such a
they
good
make
question, Aileen. For great horns, it is, in all the reading I've done, I've literally seen 2 works that took a stab at it, and they said, 8 to 12 years. I would probably say 8 to 14. Again, huge data not known about. The records are well known, but that's like saying, oh, we're all going to live to 115. The record is very impressive. It's, I believe, 28 years and 7 months. It's in that book, actually. I know I'm close. But again, those are records. Averages, not well known. One of the biggest questions, and I send Charles and Sarah emails all the time with, what were you doing last night? But one of the biggest ones that they've never answered me is, how old are you? They generally don't sexually mature until the 2nd or 3rd year. So 7 years later, they're at least 9, 10. They could be 12. They could be 17. They could be 22. I have no idea. Ma'am, I saw your hand.
What are the tufts?
Great question. And if you were wrong, I was wrong too. Don't feel bad. Their tufts are feathers. They are not their ears. This is an easy mistake to make, and it's not helped by certain owls with tufts having eared in their species name. For instance, the cover story is on short-eared owls. Those little tufts are not their ears. They're just bits of feathers. But like, say, the ears of a dog or a cat, they move. They have complete control of them. They express mood, emotion, they tuck them back when they fly. They're just bits of feathers. They're thought to be a couple of things, perhaps a camouflage device. My round head is a good example. If I'm in a background of jagged branches and leaves and so forth, and I have a nice round head, that's going to kind of stick out. But if I have something, say tufts, to break up that outline, that might help. It also could function as a name tag. Hello, my name is Great Horned Owl. Oh, you're a barred owl, you don't have tufts. You're a long-eared owl, you look like a great horn, much smaller, but with tall, thinner tufts. One thing I haven't read about, but I saw in 2010, they had 3 owlets that year, and 2 of the owlets, as they were molting, their feathers changing and growing, 2 of them each lost a tuft. I was like, all right, I know it's hot and I'm tired and I'm sweaty, but oh my God. Yeah, so pretty wild. But so I always tell people, don't feel bad if you thought they were their ears. Their ears are actually slits on the sides of their heads. Other questions? Yes, sir.
There was the one Fox News piece probably a year or 2 ago that you have linked on your blog. They said that there were like 70 or 80 people out there at one point. I assume at that point you were kind of really nervous about it because they were, and
Yes. It's one of those things that sometimes the work includes not just outreach, but management, crowd control, making sure people do the right thing. And thankfully with some of my friends and mentees that were here tonight, we were able to do that. There were times that people got way too close. I'm giving a talk in March 21st to MONEF, Missouri Nature and Environmental Photographers. And I explained to them, oh, no, I'm not a photographer. A lens does not a photographer make. But they're like, oh, no, we don't care. You know about great horned owls. We want you to talk about them, and we want you to also talk about ethics, how close, how things not to do. And unfortunately, 90% of the time, most people will do the right thing, or if you correct them, they'll do the right thing. Unfortunately, there are some people that, I don't care, I'm getting the shot, and they just don't realize it. One analogy, may I use you as my demonstration model? Here we are, we have a mutual friend. We're here in a public social space in North America in the early 21st century. This is an appropriate social distance for us to have. If I took a step forward, you'd probably go like this, be slightly more uncomfortable. If I took 2 steps, you'd be like, get out of my face. Same thing with an owl. Again, going back to what I said earlier, be a good guest. You're in their home, be a good guest. Do I want people to come out and see them? Yes, and some of those days were great because you're meeting new people. A number of folks that are here tonight, they've heard from a friend of a friend, and they came out and they connect and touch with nature, but you also want to make sure they're doing it in the right way. And if you're someone in the know, it's incumbent upon you to demonstrate that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mark?
Yes.
Probably one more question.
One more question
Yeah.
after this one, because I know there's other birds out there.
Do they ever attack people?
Yes.
And how do you know they're going to, and what, can you prevent that?
Can you prevent that? Yes. One of the biggest things is any time of year, keep a good, safe, respectful distance.
Yeah.
When they're nesting, if you know where the nest is, extra safe, extra careful, respectful distance. We were talking about banding earlier. The scientists that go up to a great horned owl's nest to band youngsters, count eggs, see what they're eating, what have you. I'm going out tonight, let's see, hockey goalie mask. Oh yeah, let me get my thick, padded protective clothing on. The way I look at it is, would you, any of you, intelligent people that you are, mess with a raccoon, a very smart, aggressive animal? Probably not.
Okay, so they won't attack unless you go right into their face. Like they won't just, oh, there's a human
There's a
walking
human
by my
will
tree.
attack.
I'm gonna.
They have been known to attack not just great horns, but other owls, seemingly unprovoked. But if you don't know where they are or what they're doing, part of my detailed letter of what to wear and what not to wear includes don't wear fur. People wearing fur have been attacked.
Binoculars?
No, binoculars are fine.
Okay.
They recently had to close part of some paths in the Seattle area, if memory serves. Barred owls were attacking joggers, particularly ladies with ponytails. They're like, oh hey, let's go. One scientist who was hit by a female great horned owl as he went up to the nest said it was like getting clubbed and stabbed all at once. Another guy said it was like getting punched with spiked brass knuckles. Another, just in case you need a third, a photographer in Alberta was knocked out of the nest tree, fell to the ground, broke his pelvis. Can you say pain, ladies and gentlemen? had to crawl to a road to get help. Again, you wouldn't mess with the raccoon, don't mess with someone that does. And one more question. Yes, ma'am.
Why Forest Park? I mean, why don't you go to other parks and look for owls?
Excellent question. And I lived close to Forest Park when I first found them. We were in the Central West End. Now we're in Dogtown. And prior to seeing the owls, we used to go to other places more, just hike and walk and check out things. And it's one of those weighing up type of decision-making processes you do. And there are times where, like, you know, I should really get to some other places more frequently. But I thought, one, convenience, it's so close. And two, the opportunity to see one of the top-level premier, arguably one of the most successful predators in North America, a 15-minute walk from your house, is hard to pass up. And it's also great. Again, remember showing all those other species that I've seen since I found the owls, getting to know something in detail. And I kid you not, I have names for different trees. I'll notice, oh, you know, this tree's having a bad year, or I'm seeing frogs in a new pond that they weren't there last year. All that sort of stuff from repeated detailed visits really pays off. But when I get the opportunity to go check out other owls, a bunch of us gathered here this past Sunday, went out to a park in the county to look at the owls that Brenda watches, and that was great. We're in a new spot. I just remember to look at the owls. I was just enjoying the scenery at times so much. But it was also, wow, that's different, that's similar. All that stuff just adds to your knowledge. Thank you very much, all of you. Wendy and I are going to go to Cousin Hugo's on Hanley-Laclede Station Road. Feel free to join us. We're not paying. If you have other questions, comments, as you noticed, I'm not shy about that.
If anyone wants to do an owl prowl in Maplewood, like we can try to have a date or something. Angela. Oh. Did you get text? Do you want to, are you in Maplewood? Because I'm going to text this other lady.
I'm not sure why you can.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if you want, I text you when they're out at my house.
I don't know where his card went that I had.
Good to see you.
Okay, I can also.
Pleasure.
I'm going to write it down because I can't do it in my phone.
Good to see you again. Hello. Thank you very much. So glad you guys
I'm glad that you have an interest in the owls, but I thought you had abandoned all this time.
Well, but my cat. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. Good to see you again. Cheers.
Thank you. Tons of great information.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you emailed me. Oh, yeah, right back. Remind me of your name?
Dan. Dan, that's right. Yeah, I got on the blog, but I couldn't find a way to actually count it. So are you going out tomorrow?
Yeah, did you get my email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send me an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
How long do you stay out?
I have 2 hours.
Okay. That's about how long I was out
Do you want to go on our owl prowl?
Yeah.
I don't know the location. Thanks.
Thank you, man. Angela, Mark, thank you so much for coming out.
You know, I heard some owls there.
Good. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Both.
I did. One
I'd love to
evening
go out
I
and see other
That's
owls.
why we've seen them a lot. So I'm gonna, next time I hear
Excellent.
or
Thank
see
you,
them,
Angela.
I'll call you because they're, I'm like, a lot of people want to see them. So,
What
I think
day?
they're nesting in the cottonwood, that's why.
Wow.
He said they
The
always
big,
nest
big,
in the
huge
cottonwood.
cottonwood.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
See, I walk over to that thing a lot, and
I wonder if they're like,
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. No,
He's got
sorry. Was it
like
bigger? Yeah.
And
It's my rank 263.
Yeah, that can happen accidentally. Yeah, I call it the 3 Fs at that point. Fall, flail, and fall.
Well, I think it
Okay, so I'm thinking I'll
Oh,
text
that
you
can
guys.
happen too.
I'll
Like,
leave it here.
yeah.
Can you get to the Metro Link easily? I mean the Metro Link? Yeah, you're in Maplewood.
Yeah, I live in down off of so I'm at the
Oh, yeah. Nice. And it's so rich. Oh, they must love that. They were very spoiled.
I go to the grocery store and get whatever that I got.
Your mother-in-law, I think she said that she had her going to her yard and woods.
Yeah. Well said.
I just went to my
Good shape.
office yesterday, two barred owls. It was, I would never, like, when I was marketing, early fall last year, and I never, and then we heard them, like, really.
Oh, I bet it did.
But it was great.
Hey, cool.
So you could alert us when you get on Facebook.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind.
You can tell us if you see it there, but yeah.
You have not? Someone posted briefly on Mobird the other day, hey, has anyone seen, or do you know Mobird? It's a distribution list talking about birding in Missouri. And someone said, hey, what's going on here? Has anyone seen the owls?
Catch up again. Yeah, I got your message.
I never saw anyone reply to me yesterday.
I called you at like 12 once.
Yeah.
Probably putting me down to sleep or something. And then I think you called me back and then I was putting them to sleep.
One thing I often talk about is
I know, we were playing
Charles
phone
has
tag.
a video conifer that we'll use from like November, December to March, April. Yeah. Good chunk of time. Not dead down on the ground, but badly damaged.
That's the way most of these are. Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah, oh, it's tough. It was very tough.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's
Good to see you. It's always a pleasure.
When are you out this weekend? Tomorrow?
Oh, I'm out tomorrow. I'm talking to a gentleman about doing an owl prowl. About the limit I'll take out is 10 at a time. Otherwise, it's too much presence on the owls. I kind of think about it. However many people I have is me times 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and then. No offense to my fellow humans, but it can be herding cats sometimes. 40-year-olds can be more challenging than 4-year-olds sometimes. So, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Pleasure.
Twice, it was just me and you, and then one time it was one of your mentees. So we had a
Yeah.
private tour.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love 3 to 5. I love 4 to 6. Yeah, but one-on-one is great too. Thank you so much. Yeah. Anytime. Thank you. Hey, how you doing?
Okay, Joel Bold.
Yeah.
We ran you down that night
Yeah.
in the park.
No, yeah, that night.
I saw him,
Brenda, yeah.
I was taking the trash out Sunday, about midnight.
Uh-huh.
And I come down the driveway and I hear it sound like a cat fight in a tree, branches. From my neighbor's house to across the street.
Yeah.
So I stopped.
Yeah.
Go back and ask, got a camera to go see if I could find it.
Yeah.
See what it is.
Yeah. Totally.
Came out. Bye. Took off. But we hear them all year. We haven't identified which ones.
Did the sounds you heard tonight, did those sound familiar?
Well, those sound like the owls I heard in the park.
No, but those sounds, do they sound like your
No.
house? Okay.
I think the sounds are longer apart.
Wow.
Okay.
So your kids are working on these pieces now?
Is it something like this?
Oil,
Oh.
watercolor? No?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe something.
Or is it more?
No.
Okay.
Low notes.
The call from great horn to great horn can be, there can be some significant differences, just like I'm saying each individual is different.
Oh, the pictures I took that night.
Yeah.
I've got them with me in the computer. I've got probably a dozen pieces.
Oh, send them my way.
Okay, I'll send
You got my card?
Yeah, I just picked up.
Good. Send it to me and I'll be more than happy to
Pick your guys'
attempt to
brain for a
identify
while,
them.
but
No, this is the ones I took.
that he.
Oh,
I
Charles.
have not found any good ones.
Oh, send me that. I
They've
would
been
love
really
some
bad, but I
other
haven't
pictures
done
of
a
them.
good
There's
search. I
Sarah,
just kind of
taken by
I'm
the
off.
best nature photographer in Missouri.
Yeah, I'm off tomorrow. Oh, and I got some cute pictures of the owlets Gumbo out there on Chesterfield.
Oh, I heard there was some out there. Yeah, nice.
We went out.
I think some of those.
Couldn't find, you know.
Okay.
Oh, they're over
And I
there.
think one
Yeah.
friend already left. Actually,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was
Over there
gonna
is
see if I
one.
could go
Yes,
upstairs, if I
yes.
could compare it.
Friends.
Okay,
Yeah, so we walked around for about an hour, we finally found it.
Cool. Good, good, good.
All right, good seeing you, Barb. Yeah.
Okay,
Tell Chris
cool.
I said hi.
I will, I will.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah, really. Really nice. But, you know,
Everyone needs to see that. So.
yeah. The preview, we've got a build up. We're doing it. Pre-talk, refill out. Howdy, Brenda. Cheers. Take care.
Good job, Mark. Yeah.
Thank you. I have another one. You should see this. If I can. Yeah, we should.
I think Kim went on to, negotiation, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's what it's And one person's gonna get right with this. So what's the problem? The computer's not talking to the projector?
No, I think not enough memory.
Fluff.
Yes, this is from last night. Charles ejects a pellet and then does an escalator stretch right after. A long pellet buildup, which I call. Oh, what the hell did I?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were gonna show
No, quite all right, quite all right.
That's probably his true size.
New favorite conflict. Yeah, we tried to build up the memory on that. That's what I think. Shakes his head.
It's like the best one.
Oh, what? What's this?
Right in, right into.
I don't know if I've ever seen that and great pants view.
That was last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, okay.
And it's like the best. That was, I think, the best that I've seen.
It's one of the
Yeah.
I've got a couple other on the blog
Yeah.
that are pretty good.
Cool. Very cool.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Oh, no problem. Oh, thank you, Don.
Great, and thank you so much for the book.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was such a nice surprise.
Oh, I like good surprises.
Barb said she's gonna
Thank
check
you.
it out.
Keep it overdue, right?
That is funny. That book, which I just gave to your library, our friend, and she's also one of my mentees. She and her boyfriend had it for, I don't know.
6 months, 7 months.
Oh,
8,
easily.
a year?
I was going to say like 8 to 10.
Okay.
And that's not the first time they've done that with a book of mine. Yeah, but eventually I was like, yeah, I kind of need that. Cool.